Hello, welcome to Cosmic Rescue. I'm Cecily Saylor. I'm the founder of Typewriter Tarot, and Cosmic Rescue is a show where I talk to creative people about a creative problem they're facing, and we explore it using tarot. At the end of each episode, there's a tarot spread that you can try on your own to help you shift, deepen, expand, or clarify your own creative practice. Today, I'm really excited to talk to a good friend of mine, a collaborator, a former coworker. Her name is Claire Campbell. She's also a writer, an incredible teacher. She's a Pisces, she's a naturalist, she's a mentor. She's really fun to be around, and I really love this conversation where we talk about the importance of honoring creative time and space, especially in an era lately where we do more different activities all in one place, such as during the recent pandemic. Creative space deserves its own magical attention. It's really wonderful to bring ritual into your creative practice, and that's what we talk about today. I hope you enjoy the episode. I'd love it if you'd give this video a like or follow our channel. That helps more people find us. And check down in the description below to learn more about Typewriter Tarot. Enjoy the episode. Hello, Claire Campbell. I am always so excited to see you. Collaborating with you is one of my favorite things, and here we are again. I'll look for any excuse to do some shit with you. I am excited to talk to you today. We are talking about honoring creative space, and I think this is especially important in these times. As I said in my intro, all of the different things are smushed together, all of our different life things. They're just all in one pot that is usually our home, especially for those of us who are fortunate enough to be able to work from home or be at home. And so this is something that you brought up, and I am so grateful that you did. You have been working on a novel for quite a while. You're coming back to a novel that's like 10 years in the making, and you're doing some revision. You also have a full-time job, and you have a side hustle, and you get into interesting, cool projects because you're also like a singer and a performer, and you do other things out in the world that I'm a little more shy myself. Anyway, I'm in awe of you. And tell me a little bit about what it's like to come back to this project now in the pandemic era.
It's cool and it's weird and it's fun because I think out of any project to come back to, this one has more of like an escapist feel. So I think just the other day I was having a conversation with somebody about what television we're choosing to watch. And aside from the occasional like British crime procedural starring a female detective, I think I tend to choose really wacky television right now, just weird and bizarre and bananas. And that's what this novel is. For me, it's like a portal where a trained assassin lady who's a badass sort of like shoves this boy aside to get into this alternate dimension where he's supposed to go because he's like the chosen one. And she shoves him out of the way. He falls to the ground and she goes through the door. So it's already kind of like a wacky setup. And to be honest, as I'm writing it in this time, there are moments where I pause to think, is this what I should be writing at the moment? Because straight up, like, she just like lopped a monster's head off and here she is cleaning her sword by like a fountain. What am I doing? Is this important? But as I tell the writers that I work with, you should always be writing exactly what you want to be writing. Just what you want to be writing every day. Don't worry about what other people are telling you is important or what you feel is important or what you feel you should be doing. Write the story that's like calling to your heart, so to speak. And I think to go back to this like escapist sort of fantasy idea, it's a lot of fun right now. And I think as a writer, I want to be having fun right now. So yeah, it's like witches and monsters and a cool portal. Like, yeah, I'm down for it right now in this weird pandemic life.
Yeah, when the real world is like turning into this kind of god awful reality, it feels really good to go to some other storyline where maybe like even scarier things happen, but at least we know they're like maybe not real. I've been escaping into like National Geographic Explorer shows, and I'm like, let's think about what humans were doing thousands of years ago before we screwed it all up. But I totally relate. And I'm glad you have a fun, crazy bananas novel to dive into in your creative process. But I know it's not that simple. And because you're working at home,
Mm-hmm.
so there's like the professional work you have to do, but then there's plenty of like home responsibilities we have to tend to as well. And we can certainly always like find a jillion reasons to procrastinate if we just look around our house, if we're really looking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about whatever the challenges that you're feeling creatively to get back to the book and kind of thinking about segmenting those other parts of your life from the part that wants to create this novel and escape into the story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is legit. I used to not write at home, so this is a big transition. I used to go to Flight Path Cafe. They knew my order because I went several times a week after the workday was over, after I left the office or the school or wherever I was working, go to a coffee shop, just happened to be Flight Path most of the time because we just moved. I was living in Central Austin at the time, and that was sort of this local place to go to. And I would just stay for several hours because the energy of sort of being like surrounded by people, but also being on your own was really, really sparked something for me. It always has. I've always loved writing in coffee shops. It's my absolute favorite thing.
It's so romantic.
So it's totally romantic. And especially at Flight Path, there's like all these UT students, and you overhear these conversations about the cool fields of study that they're doing in their graduate programs. And I think that really like fires you up. It's really cool. I'm not an introvert technically. I'm more of like an ambivert. So I need this like energy of other people creating, making, discussing to feel like I can dive into my own project and do that solo, but surrounded by a sort of crowd of strangers whom I'm not really engaging with. But I can feel their energy. It's really exciting. I've started telling my husband that I'm going to the coffee shop, and and then I just go to the kitchen. But it's straight up a thing with us now. He'll walk through and sort of be like quieter and more respectful, like getting like a sparkling water for himself. And he's like, I know you're in the coffee shop. And sort of walk through, because that's just this sort of like boundary that I'm declaring for myself, which is more than anything saying I've left my day job and I'm going to sort of my nightlife, which is my creative life. The other thing that I'm doing is getting up earlier, which I didn't used to do, and trying to write. I aim for an hour before work. If I do 20 minutes, it's a victory. It's a total victory. And I think getting up earlier is the thing where I've needed a little bit more accountability for that. So I have a few friends who are interested in doing that as well. We'll sometimes meet on Zoom. Sometimes we just text each other. You up? Yeah, I'm up. All right, let's do it. All right, I got to go take care of my kids now, or I got to go to work. Bye, that was sweet. That feels really good and feels like that kind of human interaction that I think I need a little dose of to really dive into my creative life.
It's like you get to imagine the coffee shop as you text your friend. It's like we sort of met at the coffee shop / my kitchen, your house, didn't see each other. Great job.
And like for me, like beverages are very important. Like, okay, what would I have? I would have a special coffee. I'd have a special tea. Also, there's a Topo Chico in the mix. Like just setting up like that little part of the ritual can help you feel like that's not to be discounted. Like those little things are not to be discounted. If that was part of the ambiance for me or part of the atmosphere in this other place, it needs to be here in my home to try and imagine that I'm there.
Yeah. as long as, yeah, if you bring in some of like the objects or the taste or the sensory part of the coffee shop or whatever space is special to you, that can certainly help like define your time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think like time is becoming so strange right now. Like when it turned August 1, I was like, what? And, but not only that, it's like, what happened 3 days ago? What day was that? What happened 3 hours ago? It's just like one long, long stretch of same time. And so switching in the same space in different time frames from one kind of work to another, you really don't get that segmentation that we were used to. And you don't have that like, this starts now, this ends now. So I like how you're finding ways to mark time like that for yourself. And I know we put together a little tarot spread to think about what else that can look like, which we'll talk about in a second. But first, let's talk about how you like to use tarot cards in your creative practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tarot has become a more regular pattern for me in the pandemic life, for sure. Probably mostly because of that need for the transition, because of that need for ritual to open up one space and close another, to enter and exit. So lately I use tarot to sort of open up the day for me and close out the writing practice. The writing practice is sort of this, or the creative practice is sort of, whatever I'm working on is sort of this thing that exists in this little sphere. And then the tarot pull is kind of my really sweet, like transition point where if I'm feeling, no matter what I'm feeling about the work day to come, if I'm feeling reluctant, if I'm feeling hopeful, if I'm feeling grumpy, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have that opportunity to pull a card and have some kind of focus and clarity to ask what's coming forward to help me today, or what is this about how I'm feeling? Tell me. And I get that little clarity, and then I have that anchor, and I'll set up that card for myself. And then actually I've started using it. I think after we spoke most recently, I started using it to close out the day, which I hadn't been doing, because leaving a physical space, I think, has been enough for me in the past. And since I'm not leaving the physical space, and I'm oftentimes using the same device, y'all, the same device, I need a ritual for closing out. So it's like, what have I learned? Hey, tarot, what have I learned? Tell me what I've learned today. Help me sort of sort that out. Great. Let's leave that and let's move into this other part of life. On a regular creative basis, I love tarot for revision, which is something that I learned with you several many moons ago, using cards to crack open a character, using cards to delve into a character's past, which is something that you taught me that I find extremely useful, because we oftentimes neglect these hidden aspects of character because we feel like we know them because we walk around with them in our heads, but our readers don't. And I think the tarot can help us ask questions and refine aspects of character that our readers will be seeking out no matter what we know in our heads to be true. So I think, as in life, the tarot offers clarity and deepening for the creative process simply by asking those same questions, to have these anchors for the made up things, the imaginary things, in the creative practice.
Yeah, you heard it here, everyone. Tarot is a endlessly wonderful and useful tool, not only for creativity, but for life. And I like that idea of closing out the day with a tarot card. And, since we're not passing through actual thresholds, like getting in and out of our car or on and off a bus or going in and out of the workplace or the coffee shop, we don't have, as we've been saying, like those markers of place and time in the same way. And so if you're getting out your cards, like I've never seen anyone just like rip them out the box and like just like grab the first thing they see, right? Like you almost always usually handle them with care. You take a minute to like get quiet, to slow down, to like move your cards around, set them out for yourself. And as you were saying, which I hope people do this when they use tarot, is go inside and figure out, what is it I'm trying to know today? Or if I don't know what I want to know, let's just see what tarot wants to tell me. And just that process of slowing down, quieting down, sitting with something intentionally, like then you create your own threshold or portal energetically into, you know, something else with your intention, with your energy, with your time, with your focus. So even though we're not leaving the house so much, we can recreate it. And also, just like the process of identifying what your question is or what it is you want to know. You were talking about, like, you know, getting up in a mood sometimes, which I can certainly identify with. But if you slow down, and if I would take a minute and stop and maybe work with my cards on those grumpy mornings, I could say, like, what's this really about? Like, what do I need? What am I feeling? And then usually the answer is something that like is alleviating in some way. It's either validating, or it's like, oh, this is what you need. You can maybe get this by calling a friend or writing for a while, and I don't have to go through the rest of the day grumpy anymore. But usually that grumpiness will just keep running on autopilot until you stop and say, hey, hold on, wait. And at that moment, you can really create like an opening or a shift, just a subtle one, which will really make a big difference. So just finding that question is kind of half the battle.
It's wild to think of all the things that I think I took for granted as these portals via driving in a car, which is like something that I definitely did not think I would miss. However, I think about moments where something comes on the radio that really like grabs you, and you have a moment of transcendence through music and traversing space, like leaving work recently, speaking of like time bending, this was pre-pandemic, but leaving work and having had a stressful day, and this great heart song that I love came on the radio, and knew the lyrics and just had this moment of transcendence. And I think that's where I've been there's an organic pause or an organic transition in my day. I did nothing to bring that about. It just sort of happened that I was leaving. And now I think we're talking about really trying to create and integrate those moments of pause, when before maybe we had them lazily or organically. And now it's like, no, you have to make it happen.
Yeah, that's true. Totally true. For me, it might be, like a song on the radio, someone you notice on the street, a bird perched on that wire that speaks to me or something. And now I'm waiting for just animals to come visit. And then I treat them like they're magical because please let there be magic, or I don't know.
And they are.
They are. That's true. Yeah, I don't doubt it. But all right, let's talk about your tarot spread that we came up with for this question of honoring your creative time and space. And so we did a little 3-card spread. The first question in this spread is, what can I do to detach from other life activities when it's time to create? So something to help you shut down, walk away from, close off the other things you might be doing in your life before you start communing with your art form. Question number 2, how can I invoke the creative spirit that gets me going when I set out to create? So maybe you've logged off at work and it's time to get into the creative space. What can you do to like call on, to conjure those creative spirits that come to visit you as you open that sacred space for yourself? And then question number 3, how can I honor my work before I enter the real world again? So this one is about like, you've kind of finished your creative time that you've set aside, and instead of just like slamming the laptop shut and going to like wash your face and get in bed or whatever, there's something a little more special and intentional about that. So even within this spread, we're giving you a little like arc for shutting the door over here, opening the door here, and closing that door again. So Claire, we're going to look at the cards that came up for you. what can I do to detach from other life activities when it's time to write or to create? And for this one, you had the Five of Pentacles, which was kind of an interesting response. Yes, not the most joyous card in the Five of Pentacles, which is really a card of like how we relate to scarcity and how we do and don't call in supportive resources, whether that's people, institutions, organizations, community, material goods, things like that. And you know, in the traditional card, this Five of Pentacles looks like a really solemn night. We see people in hardship, suffering. It's kind of like it's a great card for like our current unemployment numbers, frankly. So what does this mean? What did this mean for you when you saw it in this spread, in this place?
Yeah. I love it when the tarot is like, oh, honey, I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you need. And it's like, this is one of those cards that I think we can be kind of miffed to pull because we kind of don't want to do the hard work of facing up to things like a scarcity mindset. But that's absolutely what came to mind. I think oftentimes, as I mentioned, like getting up and trying to write for an hour and then it's, whoops, I've got 15 minutes. And then having this mindset of, I don't have enough. This is not enough. When in fact, I have 15 minutes. I have 15 minutes. That precious time can help me create something. And that something is what I have today. And that is enough. So I think this is like, it doesn't matter what time we're living in, what your work situation is. I think no matter how much luxurious time we have, this is something that we face in the creative process, right? Is feeling like we don't have enough time, whether that's a question of like how old we are, how long we've been working on something, or simply, as I'm talking about now, just trying to get up in the morning and having 15 minutes as opposed to an hour can create this mindset that like, well, that wasn't worth it, when in fact it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely valuable. That's what you have, and it's meant to be celebrated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if resources are scarce, you have to make them last as long as you can. You have to access them when you're able to. So yeah, it's really about using your resources well. And if time is the thing that is scarce in this case, then snatch it up when you can get it, and make it work for you. For your second question, how can I invoke the creative spirit that gets me going when I sit down to create? Here you have the Justice card, which has come up. I've seen other people get this card recently, and I've gotten it myself in recent months. And this card for me is about having some kind of deeper awakening around what your values are, what's important to you, what you stand for in the world, and then following that with some kind of action. Like now that you've realized, like, I don't want to live in a world with this injustice, so I'm going to do at least something about it instead of just sitting here thinking about how terrible that thing is. So this is interesting about invoking a spirit to bring in this creative space, and then having this card that's about values and action. How did you bring it into this? How do you read it as an answer in this case?
Yeah. Again, thanks, tarot. Because yeah, wouldn't we love to pull the Empress for this question? Wouldn't we love to pull something that's like all about, you know, the mystical balance inside of us? But this is a card about balance for me. And it is very much also a card about reality and being extremely present-minded, not wandering into different realities. Like, well, if I were this person, I would be living out the values that are important to me. Or if I were this person and had this job, then I'd be further along. My creative life would be more powerful and have greater impact because I was this person. No, this is the only reality. This, this is the present time. I do feel like Justice, I'm looking at the Pig in Other Worlds deck, and the artists have depicted her, Justice, as sort of clothed in this like thorny, scratchy straw that comes up into this crown. And it's like not the most fluid thing. I mean, Justice is wearing this like flowing red robe underneath it. But I do think we talked a little bit about how Justice is more of a taskmaster, really telling you to focus, not only on like those, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with this time, with this sweet time that you have? As you mentioned, how are you going to live out those values? But really taking action. Justice has got the sword up in the air, like ready to swipe it through, and be like with this like clear cut and make that decision. Do it now. Cause now is it. That's it. So yeah, again, a card that initially I was like, and then I was like, no, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I think about, because you're a writing coach, you teach writing, you've taught writing to children, to people in early stages of memory loss, to people who are working on books that they want to find an agent for and publish and like build a writing career. So all kinds of different contexts. And I know some of your messaging is universal. And because I've been a writing coach myself as well, it's like, use the time you have. It doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, writing is something you value because it's a big part of your life and your career. And so it's like, if you're giving, I feel this way with tarot and have felt it as a writing coach too. Like I'm giving my clients this advice, like seize the moment, even if it's 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be fucking amazing. It's just like you staying in touch with the project. Don't give yourself a hard time about it. Give yourself a lot of freedom. The important thing, the most valuable thing that you're doing is connecting with your creativity and giving it space to come out and flourish. And you don't know what it's going to look like till it shows up. But if you never sit down to do it, then it's all blocked. And so part of it, like being a person who's a little bit of like a preacher in this context, you also have to like walk the walk, right? And so I know I hear myself giving a lot of advice where I'm like, Cecily, you need to be better at this as well. So it's like living up to the standards that you want to share with the world for everyone's betterment. It's like, embrace your creativity. I need to embrace it too. Cause yeah, I believe in it.
Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons I do teach, is because I think that connection inspires me to like fucking do it, as opposed to just saying it. If you've preached it, you feel more that's like galvanized for you. It's like, no, I will do it. I will take the time. Because you're sort of declaring it for somebody else. You declare it for yourself. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Question number 3, how can I honor my work before I enter the real world again? So you've just had this creative session, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 95 minutes. What can you do to kind of close that out? And here again, you have another interesting card, the 8 of Wands, which is one of the few cards in the tarot in mini decks. So in mini decks that show a lot of humans in the cards, the 8 of Wands is one of few that has 0 humans in it. It's just fire energy times the power of 8, flying through the air, so much momentum, so much energy, moving these sticks through the wind. They're ready to land and come down. What did this card mean for you in terms of like how you finish a writing session for yourself?
I think this is encouragement to rethink how I typically feel, which is, oh, I hate to leave that. I just got started. I hate to close that door and completely shut it behind me because it was starting to get really good. And now I have to do something that's in a completely different attitude, a completely different cerebral state, when actually it can speed you on to the next aspect of your day. It can help you even soar, not just move, but really soar into the next aspect of your day with that great energy. This is a card of transformation, right? I think this is why we're talking about creating rituals that enable you to enter and exit, or even carry a little bit of it with you. Because I think this is a reminder that if we do completely shut the door and leave it as if it never happened, we'll feel kind of bereft, especially if that was like a really sweet time of the day and we're going into something where we don't feel as sweet. Now, that depends on your profession and it depends on your work. Some folks will be like psyched, and some days I am psyched to move into the workday because I have a really cool project that I want to work on, but some days you don't. So I like this reminder to take a little something with you and help you sort of like fire up the rest of the day with that creative session. Yeah,
it's kind of like this card understands that you're a busy woman, and it's like, what little thing can you do as your wands are landing for the morning to acknowledge them? Like, whether it's pulling a tarot card real quick at the end of your writing session, and then using that to like be your, even when you quit writing and you go throughout the rest of your day, it's not like you completely stop thinking about it. It's still with you, which is wonderful. So maybe even a tarot card to like help you continue ruminating until the next time. Yeah. Or even just like, I'm almost thinking of like a really quick, like, blessing over your work before you move on to something else, something quick and swift, but something that travels, and something that at least helps you land that moment in time. So completing the landing, like landing it, like taking a bow, and then going into whatever it is you have to do next. Because I think if you're just like you were saying, if it's just like, well, I got my 15 minutes in, now I have to go do 10,000 things, close my laptop, like go clean the kitchen or take care of children or whatever it may be, then it's just not as meaningful. It's like your creative spirits will be like, hey, we came to visit, say goodbye, we love you. How did this spread do anything for you? Did it change anything for you? Did it mean anything for you?
I think the spread is a very affirming spread for me. I think that lately, in conversations with other creatives, in conversations with clients and students, I talk a lot about the need for entering and exiting. I make it a point that in every right now session that I teach, we take a collective breath. We take a moment for gratitude. But despite the fact that I'm discussing this with like classes and fellow artists and in therapy, am I doing it for myself all the time? Not necessarily. So this spread for me was really affirming of the need for those rituals to help you enter and exit, to help you transition, to help you carry things along. And I think it was affirming to me that the tarot can be absolutely a strong tool for that. It's like, hi, I'm here to help you, use me. And this is really doing this spread is why I decided to, okay, let's pull another card. Let's do the sort of like exit at the end of the day. Let's add some music to it. That's something else that I've realized is super helpful. And this is, so for me, the spread is, it can seem at face value like it's a bit of a taskmaster, as we mentioned that justice is, but I think it's really a nurturing gift of a spread that's affirming of the things that we need. And we just have to make that space for ourselves.
Yeah, I think a little bit can go a long way here. Well, wonderful. And so we hope that our viewers and all the creatives out there will try the spread for themselves. Once again, It is 3 cards. And that first question is, how can I detach from my other life activities when it's time for me to create? Question number 2, how can I invoke the creative spirit that gets me going when it is time to create? And question 3, how can I honor the work that I've done before I enter the real world again? So, create a little ritual for yourself, sit down, open up the space, talk to your creative spirits, ask these questions in turn, see what cards come up for you, and just journal a little bit about what you see. And we're encouraging everyone to keep thinking about the cards that come up, like over the course of a week, come back to them. Even if you're not an expert in card meanings, it's really just about what you intuitively find in the cards and staying curious about what they're trying to tell you. And from the cards that come up, you might find little things you can do, little rituals to help you carve out that space and close that space and call on your creative spirits. And maybe that little difference will go a long way for you. Claire, thank you so much for talking through this with me. It's always a joy.
Thank you. Yeah, this series that you're doing is much needed, and it's an absolute delight to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Back at you. I hope everyone watching this will go check out more of Claire Campbell's work and offerings. You can find her at www.clairecampbellwriting.com. She's on Instagram and Twitter at Campbell_Claire.
Yes.
And then also you offer these wonderful Right Now sessions, which are like an hour long, hour and a half long, 2 hours.
It's a 90-minute session, and I almost always teach one a month. So typically there is one coming up on the horizon.
And those really help you. Those are generative sessions. Like
yes.
You kind of bring in something that will help people approach their work in a slightly different way and maybe drum up or infuse one's life with creative content that you weren't working with before. So if you're feeling kind of stagnant, or if you just need kind of something different, Right Now sessions are awesome. So please check out Claire's work. And then of course, Claire and I sometimes collaborate. So maybe you'll see us teaching together again. Claire, thanks so much, and good luck with the novel. I can't wait to read
it. Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Cosmic Rescue. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you will try this tarot spread. We hope you will share what happens in your tarot spread here in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to connect with you again. You can find out more about our work. We offer tarot readings. We host workshops and classes. We have a membership program where you can get a lot more tarot learning for your creative practice, for your spiritual practice, for your life practices. So find us at typewritertarot.com or on social media at typewritertarot. Our theme song is It's Ready by The Magical Objects, and our series editor is Annar Verold. We are grateful to them both, and we hope to see you again soon. Look for new episodes on the new moon and the full moon. See you next time.